It is time for prize fighters, circus freaks, and gangsters. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Greta.
And we are discussing Warrior once more. We have come back in on Season 2, which is dope. As much as I enjoyed spinning off into Kung Fu and Master and Commander, I am really glad to be back to this.
I am so glad to be back. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was nice to get kind of the contrast bath between Kung Fu and the gloriousness that is this thing. You're just a half-assed trash that was Kung Fu, and then this beautiful, immaculately crafted thing.
It is gorgeous. And so the episode title even lets us know we are in for a lot.
Yes, learn to endure or hire a bodyguard. And this is such an amazing episode. It has so much action in it, but I think the real focus of this episode was the fashion, was it not?
Definitely. But the very opening of the episode, I mean, how do you practice that facial expression in a mirror, first of all? But just from the start, I was like, oh my God, we are entering some sort of like heightened reality, graphic novel, comic book, sort of like slightly tipped reality versus last season. And I'm like, oh, they have just turned all the dials up to 11.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a cross between Sherlock Holmes and Pirates of the Caribbean was the vibe I was getting out of that Barbary Coast scene.
Yeah.
And I love that they brought the Barbary Coast in there. Do you know much about the Barbary Coast?
I do not. I only know it as like the part of North Africa where the Barbary pirates were coming out of, like Morocco and Tunisia and everything. So what's going on here?
Well, perfect, because that's actually where this Barbary Coast gets its name. Although it got its name in the 1860s for being the Barbary Coast, because just like in the Barbary Coast in Africa, where they had specific dive bars where sailors would get shanghaied into navies, the same thing happened in San Francisco in the dive bars in the Barbary Coast. But it was basically just like a lawless den of iniquities. It was vigilantes running around. Everybody was grafting everybody else. There was gambling. There was prostitution. There were opium dens. But there were also dance halls and concert saloons and bars and jazz clubs and variety shows. So this was like where American culture kind of sprang forth out of this den of hell.
So it sort of feels like kind of like bad vaudeville or something. The Gold Rush West Coast uncivilized version.
Yeah, where you had the Siegfried Follies just after this in New York City, where it was like really, really clean and upscale. Okay. This is the bawdy, cantankerous, brawling, disgusting version. But people played in both venues. Like, they'd go from one coast to the other, and they'd play both these places, because this is where you made money in San Francisco.
Right. Okay. And so, yeah, we kind of get a sense of that. Like, there's a whole showplace going on. And I was like, all right, who's the pirate lady? Because that is clearly how she was dressed up.
So I saw her as Xena. I was like, oh, my God, it's Andalusian Xena.
Oh, my God. And so she comes walking down the stairs. And I was like, clearly the costume department spent some money on boots, and they want me to blow my shoe budget now. This is not the last time they're going to do this.
Her greaves on her shoes were amazing. So she had bangles all up her arms.
Yep.
She really it had a real Xena vibe to me. Knee-high leather boots, a lace sleeveless shirt, a black chiffon skirt that was like kind of. It was like, I don't know, what a merengue dancer or something would wear, I feel like. And then a hand-stitched doublet? Is that what that was?
It's sort of. Her outfit was sort of making me think, I'm like, okay, we are entering like graphic novel, comic book, fantasy land a little bit more. Because there was a lot about her outfit that wasn't exactly real, but it had a lot of references. And so your comment about her being Andalusian with that lace top, like that had sort of like a Spanish vibe to it, and her skirt as well. And I was like, okay, so she's
right.
like kind.
Her hair too. Her hair. She looked like a flamenco dancer, like the picture of a flamenco dancer, except the warrior flamenco dancer, because she had that like it was like a leather cuirass that was over her top.
Right. Yeah.
But it was like hand stitched.
Yeah.
Oh, it was such a badass outfit.
So we know, something's up here, and I don't know what, but
when she walked down those steps, I felt like if the fight went away, she didn't like when Assam and this idiot were doing that very stereotypical fight that they have in every Chinese movie, where it's the grunting ogre of a Western man who's like a wrestler strong man fighting the tiny little Chinese man, and then he went through like, I'm gonna fight you with my strength. No, that's stupid. That's how I almost got killed. And then he almost gets killed. He remembers Li Yong. And then he's like, no, I'm going to fight the smart way. And he kicks the shit out of the dude. But it felt like when she walked down those stairs.
Yeah, the music changes and you're like, it's on. He's going down.
He totally hulked up. It was just like when the Hulk used to like do that thing where he'd wave his hand around by his ear and like listen to the crowd hulk him up. And then he'd stand up all like, and he'd get up all big. Like, I felt like that was his kind of hulking up moment, remembering Li Yong and then going back to his normal self.
Right. Totally. So, so he finally wins and he gets paid off and you're like, okay, so I definitely haven't met this lady before, because occasionally there'll be a character, they'll look really different, like Wong Chao in the first season. I was like, wait, is that? I'm like, nope. This is an entirely new person. And I guess Assam's going here for some therapy.
Well, that's how it looks initially, but by the end of this, when we come to the end, I'll tell you the revelation I had in the second like sequence in the Barbary Coast. But
okay, cool.
Yeah, because it does look like he's kind of going through therapy, like he's kind of taking a beating for his past idiocy or something like that. And then Vega, this gorgeous woman, is like another one of these beautiful women who sees this ripped Asian man, and they're like, I can help you be an even better ripped Asian man. We should team up. And he's like, I don't need any help because I'm the Asian Punisher. He goes and nose to nose with her like they are almost going to kiss. And he's like, I don't need your help. I'm better without you. Yeah. I'm Batman.
Yeah, see, graphic novel. It's doing the thing. But anyway, so we have our intro music and then we enter into a commercial for clothes or feminine products, or
I genuinely thought it was a commercial. I thought, like a Bounce commercial or something. Like women walking, the lights were so bright, so it was like the saturation was turned way up, and it's like blinding you with the sunlight, and this woman walking through a field of flowers and laundry.
And ta-da! I'm like, oh, we're going to get some Leary backstory. And we do.
We do.
And now we find out why he's a bitter solo man. He had a wife and he had 2 boys and the smallpox got him.
The smallpox got him. And, fun fact. So there were several smallpox outbreaks in the United States at this time.
Oh,
and
hell
they
yeah.
were caused very specifically by racists who refused to get inoculated against smallpox because they didn't want any dirty smallpox from non-white people. Because that's how you got it. Like, they rubbed a little nastiness from a smallpox wound into it. They cut you.
You actually...
Oh, you're the scientist. You tell us.
Yeah, the inoculation program. So you can actually find like James Madison and Hamilton and like all the founding fathers talking about how they got inoculated, and you'd go through this like week cleansing program and getting your body all ready.
Wait, are you saying that the founding fathers themselves espoused inoculation, which is now known as what?
Vaccination.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. The founding fathers, like the people who wrote the Constitution of the United States, they liked vaccinations. That's fascinating. Do go on.
Well, they'd seen so many of their friends die when they were children. And they also had other friends who had like these nasty things on their faces from the smallpox they got there. But anyway.
Oh, did it give you horrible scarring?
Oh my God. Why do you think people in France were wearing like that inch-thick makeup? It was to like cover up all of your nasty smallpox scars.
So everybody looked like Edward James Olmos back in the day.
Bing,
just
bing.
Like, it looked like their face got melted with acid. No offense against that man. God bless him. I'm sorry to, everybody had bad acne back in the day, but Jesus, that man must have been plagued by acne.
So anyway, what you would do is you would go through about like this week preparation program to sort of cleanse your body and ready yourself for it, and then you would do a little cut in your skin, and then they would take scabs from somebody who had cowpox, to give you a weakened version of the smallpox. So if you did get smallpox, your body would know what to do with it. And so that's why it is called vaccination. For those of you who have like a little bit of Spanish running around in your head, vaca for cow. And so dairy maids would get the cowpox from the cows. And so you could always tell when a dairy maid had it because she'd have like these sores on her hands. And so they would take scabs and pus from the dairy maid sores and then introduce it into like a little cut on your arm. And so, yeah, you'd get the cowpox and you'd feel kind of crappy, but you're not going to die.
Because that's the point of vaccinations. It's not to prevent the transmission of it or to prevent you from getting it. It's to prevent you from dying from it.
Right. And they had seen sort of smallpox and then later on measles and a bunch of other things that they sort of learned to figure out. The number of dead children.
And the founding fathers, as I recall, learned it from their slaves who had learned it from the Turks, because the Turks were the ones who invented inoculation.
Right. Yeah, the Turks. And there's sort of this whole thing about these little Turkish grandmas running around with walnut shells with the scabs that they would use for the inoculation in those walnuts. Like that was like this nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But that's where the racism comes in. They weren't going to have any dirty blacks or Turks or anything. They weren't going to use any of their stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about how blackness and whiteness were sort of like this moving target. And so at the time, Turks were considered blacks.
Because what? Wow. What? It's just so dumb. It's just so very, very dumb. Hey, well, they're headed back there in Florida and stuff, so go get them.
They've got leprosy.
They got leprosy.
And malaria.
And now because the ocean's heating up, they're getting flesh-eating bacteria coming too.
Oh God.
Yep, right out of the water.
No, it terrifies me, the number of dead children we're going to have before everybody comes to their senses again, because this is why medical science, people wanted to stop their babies from dying.
We have failed to educate people.
And we're going straight back there.
And so hopefully we can help here, but my God, we need some kind of better educational system, because that's psychotic. What's going on?
Ugh. So, yeah, let's get back to Leary's dead babies, because, that's...
that was quite an aside.
That's where we were.
We both got on our soapboxes there.
So, anyway.
But anyway, so we're back to Sophie seduces Leary by saying fuck.
Yeah, see, I didn't know who she was, because, again, this was the first time I was watching it, but I was like, a graveyard meet cute. But on the other hand, that is so 19th century. Oh, my God.
Is it really?
Well, a graveyard would be, to go visit her father's grave would be just about the only place a nice girl could sort of walk around alone. I mean, if she were in town, she would have to be chaperoned, right?
Well, wouldn't they go on cotillions or whatever, where they just go for walks? I know they did that in France, but I guess they had to have chaperones then.
Right. And so she would never have been able to meet somebody like Leary.
Okay, but she can go to the cemetery all by herself.
Right, because she's just there to, like, redistribute her dad's grave flowers.
There you go. And her tiny little brain can handle that without any male chaperoning.
Right. Well, and a graveyard is, it's a safe place. It's practically a church.
Except that in the 19th century, it was filled with coked out doctors who were digging up corpses to take them back and cut them apart.
But that's at night.
You're
not going to do that in broad daylight.
People think it's dangerous now, and it's like, there were just people randomly shooting all the time. Like, everybody's stabbing everybody, and then you got people digging up graves at night. So she could fall into an open grave as well while she's walking around this cemetery unchaperoned.
Right. Oh, and the other thing you have to know about Sophie is that she's sort of quote unquote not out. She's not old enough to be like in society. And you can tell that because she's got her hair down.
But so did Vega. Vega had her hair down, which I was very surprised by.
Yeah, no, but she's a pirate lady.
Pirate ladies can do what they want. Yeah, they play by their own rules. What am I thinking?
Right.
Okay, so at what age do you start putting your hair up as opposed to letting it be down?
It's whatever you're presented to society, and sort of depending on where you were and what your status was and what century it was, it could be like 12, 14, 16, 18. But
is that like your quinceañera, basically?
Sort of. It's like the debutante thing. And Sophie and Penny are like high enough in society that there's like this dividing line between like when you can be courted for marriage and when you can't.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
But I think the rules in San Francisco are a little loosier-goosier, especially now that Daddy's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Dear old dad. Boy, I love Sophie. She's such a, like, she comes right out of the gate swinging, and she gets better with every minute that she's in this show.
But, so we get the meet cute in the graveyard, and, like, you're like, Leary might be, his heart might be mended, and it might be time for him to start looking around. And so, boom, we go.
And he might be looking at young Sophie there, He's like, well, this wife and these two sons are dead and in the ground, so it's time to move on. Sophie, you look good. Let's get it.
And let's just say he doesn't see many women in his daily rounds.
No, he barely ever interacts with them. But when he does, he's always great. Like, he is the best bad guy who has ever been in a TV show, because you, like, really desperately want to root for him. And then you're like, motherfucker, like, every episode.
I mean, he's charming. Yeah. But now we're about to take the second hit at the fashion awards for this episode.
Toy's dress. Oh.
Good God. I just saw that one. Oh, shit.
So do you want to describe this? I've written down notes, but I think you're probably better at describing fashion than I am. So, I mean, whoever designed this dress has obviously been watching a lot of modern drag fashions and J-Lo as well. Okay, so neither of these dresses that we've seen thus far were even vaguely historically accurate. No. And it doesn't matter. Yeah, because the first one, you could see her knees, and I was like, she probably would have had her kneecaps cut off if she was walking around in a dress like that back in the day. But, like, you know what I, like, but so that blew my mind. So, okay, so this dress is gorgeous. Yeah, so it's this sort of deep blood red, and it's this embroidered, extremely expensive, fantastical silk, and it's sort of smushed up against the front of her body, but it's not a full dress. It just has little ribbons holding the front of the dress to the back of the dress. The front. And then it's open back, too? The back is just this piece of chiffon, basically. And so that's why I'm like, yeah, we're getting some serious J-Lo vibes there. And then it's got this long sort of flowing train that just sort of like sweeps behind her. She had to practice walking in that dress a lot. And again, another pair of shoes. Those were not to my taste, but for a certain other person, that's going to blow their shoe budget. Were those rubies or... Were they rubies or are there red pearls?
Probably garnets.
That were... Garnets. Okay, so they were sewn onto her dress like very regularly. I mean, there must have been thousands of dollars in jewels on this thing. Yeah, so and it was probably just like red glass beads. I didn't even notice them because I was too busy going, holy fucking shit, at her dress.
Yeah, I mean, she had to practice walking in that dress, but it doesn't matter because she did it right. And I was like, yep. We don't even care about historical accuracy. We just want to make Atoy look like the baddest ass in every scene she's in. And I'm here for it.
One thing I've learned from watching fashion is that those dresses that restrict your movement actually require you to move in a specific way that sets a tone. So, like, you're walking... So she looks imperious in this dress, even though she looks like she is the den mother of the world's most expensive brothel on earth. But, like... Right. She also looks like she will fuck you up. She will straight fuck you up. And, so it's amazing. It's like everything she wears is like armor.
Yes, in one way or another. Yeah, so she comes down and she walks into the room and there's Lai looking put together and sort of that, like, she has that scary stillness about her where she's just very composed.
with an evil little smile, and she never speaks. So you're like, oh, she's going to kill you. She's going to kill me. I'm going to leave this room.
Yep, but Atoy says, okay, you're done here. Toodles. And so she and Assam sit down and have a conversation full of cliches.
Full of cliches, yes, but then they get down to business, because that was funny when he was like, I don't remember what he said, but he just, then after he made his cliched statement, which is something like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Then then he's like, she's like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, I don't know. I thought we were just trading cliches.
Yeah.
That was great repartee.
And that's Atoy's like, are you in this for therapy, whatever. But Assam is much more interested in a couple of guys that he saw that had Chinese cues in their coats.
Yes, and by Chinese cues, they didn't just cut off the ponytail
Braid.
like I was thinking with a pair of scissors. No, they scalped these people, because scalping was still happening in the American Southwest a lot at this time.
Yes, and so the sort of the nastiest Americans, especially the nativists, even though they hated all the Indians, they thought this is a symbol of terror. So we're going to pick up the terror part.
Yeah, and they were all, I mean, when we get to them, they were all astonishingly nattily dressed. I didn't even notice them at the beginning, or the cues inside their jackets.
No, but he does mention the Teddy Boys.
Yes.
And so since you are a gang expert, are you going to tell us about the Teddy Boys, please?
The Teddy Boys did not exist. I don't think that there was any real analog to the Teddy Boys in real life. There was a group called the Teddy Boys in the 1950s who were very, very nattily dressed British hooligans. And so they were also known for being well dressed. So I think that's probably where they got the name. But the two big gangs that were in the Barbary Coast at that time were the Sydney Ducks, who I mentioned before, and they were all, and so I found this is really interesting. So when they settled the Barbary Coast, you initially had the gold rush people. So you had the miners, and then the natives, whoever natives were there. Then you had Mexican war volunteers that were all from the Bowery and the Five Points. So they were all gang people. And they got, after the Mexican War, they got mustered out in San Francisco. And so they established a Tammany Hall in San Francisco, bringing us right back to the first episode. Right? Yes, it's full circle. Gangs of New York back in it. So they founded a Tammany Hall, and these guys called themselves the Hounds. And so it was the Hounds versus the Ducks in the Barbary Coast. And so the Ducks were actually, it was a couple of, right after those guys set up, the Ducks came in, and it was 4 or 5 ships of released convicts from Australia. So they were like, oh, these people really suck. We're sending them elsewhere. And they shipped them to America, dumped them in San Francisco, and they founded the Sydney Ducks. So they're the ones who kept burning down the city, and that's why they refer to all the white people as ducks.
Okay, so the British weren't allowed to send their convicts to the U.S. East Coast anymore once we proclaimed independence, but they're like, that's not America yet. It's just some damn territory. We'll send you our criminals the other side.
And I think we had just acquired it from Mexico, too. So nobody gave a shit about California in America at that time.
Yeah, it wasn't even part of the Louisiana Purchase.
No, it came after.
No, because the Louisiana Purchase ended at the Rockies.
Oh, did it? Okay, and so that was a Spanish land.
Yeah.
Okay, that then we took in the Mexican War.
Right.
The Mexican-American War.
Some other stuff.
That was in 1848.
It's complicated, and it's a lot of, what are you going to do about it? Huh?
Nobody really gave a shit about it. It's so funny.
Okay, so the Teddy Boys are made up, because I had heard of the Teddy Boys, and I knew about them as a British entity, so I didn't know if they had some analog. But no. Okay.
No, but there were, Arizona was paying for civilian native scalps at that time. The U.S. Army was regularly scalping native civilians and paying for them. And the Mexican government had a standing agreement to pay for any scalps that you brought in from natives right up until 1880. There's a book about it. It's about the Comanche hunters that the guy who wrote Cormac McCarthy wrote.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, he's a great writer. All right, so we find about the existence of the Teddy Boys, and we get one of the more fun scene swaps that they do And again, I'm like, we are going full graphic novel as we go half of Atoy's face and then boom, half of O'Hara's face.
They really did do some great scene changes. The one at the end of the end of the show looks like the Crow. Like they really stylized the shit out of it. It was so good. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of Crow vibes in this. Now that I think of it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, if you look at sort of graphic novel and comic book sensibility and just like this heightened reality, it's all over this show, and it's just
everything
amazing.
Is either way too dark or way too bright. It's kind of like the second and third Batman movies.
Right. But everything was still visible. I didn't have to like go into a darkened room to watch this one. But yeah, we find out O'Hara is still being the collector, and he knows all of your bullshit, and he is not here for any of it.
No, and he's so perfect for his job. He has no remorse for the people on the other side of the table, because he knows that they put themselves in that position, and he knows that they're going to have to give up what they're going to give up.
Because that guy's like just throwing every excuse at him. He's like, all their tables are crooked. The Chinese shouldn't even be here. Blah, blah, blah. And O'Hara's like, yeah, but didn't stop you from gambling, you dumb shit.
Yeah, especially when he's like, yeah, it's all the games are crooked. And he's like, you still made the bet, dumbass. You knew that. Give me that ring. It was my dad's. Give me that ring.
And that was so interesting to me, because you're in this room full of knickknacks, and some of them are more or less valuable, but O'Hara picks out the most valuable item that he can easily get his hands on right there. Like nothing he's going to have to fiddle around with. Give me that hunk of gold.
I expected that thing to go, give me that ring, and him to go, no, it was my dad's, and him to go, give me that ring or I'll take the finger with it. Because I just read about the hounds, and they used to cut off fingers and noses all the time, and ears if you didn't pay up. And that was just if you didn't pay up on your your protection racket shit. Never mind a debt. My God, they're probably taking hands.
But that was a nice rich kid. He didn't want to get messed up, so he was going to hand over that ring right away. He has like other jewelry. You could see from just the sheer amount of stuff in that house.
Yeah. He can sell a couple pieces of furniture and get that money.
Yeah, fencible stuff. And then we get to Penny's a boss bitch.
Oh, yes. This is where Sophie genuinely she becomes my favorite character in this. The mayor needs to change his name to Samuel Folgers, because Sophie puts this man on grind. It was crazy. I don't even remember what she said to him, but everything she said to him just ate him up. And then she just started saying his name over and over, and he was losing his mind. I love that scene so much.
We're already kind of in a thing, because Sam Blake has been used to bullying Penny, and like Penny's just over it. You'll notice she's not wearing her pearls anymore.
I didn't notice that. I knew that she was dressed like a bad bitch. There was nothing out of place. Her hair looked extra light. Her eyebrows looked extra perfect. I mean, and then she had this very austere, high-necked dress that just looked like she wasn't necessarily going to a funeral, but if you fuck with her, it might be yours.
Well, that's a work dress rather than I'm going to stand around and look pretty dress.
Yeah, she looked badass, though. That was like a navy blue, very shiny, austere. What kind of dress was it?
Yeah. The thing is, it was effectively a solid color, and so it like didn't stand far out from her body. It was tailored very close in. It didn't have like big puffy sleeves. It had very slim ones. She was dressed to like go to work and do something, as opposed to a lot of her outfits last season where she was dressed up to walk around and look pretty. She was wearing something where she could like pick up and write with quill pens and like do calculations and be behind a desk. I mean, it was a very practical outfit, as opposed to that thing she was wandering around in the foundry in episode 10. It was all like silk and
she would have just burst into flames the first second she walked in.
Right.
And it was white. Wearing white into a steel factory.
Oh. But Sophie comes in and she's like, Mr. Mayor. And he's like, I've told you to call me Samuel. And she's like, okay, Samuel. He's like, there, I put you in your place. And she's like, pass the berries. He's like,
No, she goes, pass the berries, Samuel. And
Yes.
And then he's like, God damn it, I'm leaving. And he just stands up, doesn't pass the berries.
Yeah, because he's been so used to bullying Penny, and now Penny's not putting up with that shit. And now Penny's brought her sister in. See, this is what I was talking about last season, where Penny had no support, she had no community. Now Samuel is outnumbered, and he can't take it. He's a fragile little snowflake.
Oh, it's so much fun, and he plays this character perfectly. That actor, he's amazing.
Oh, yeah, no, he does a great thing. And so the thing about Sophie and boarding school, the fact that they're talking about school sort of re-emphasizes that she's not like out in society. And also that Penny's sort of taken on the mother role, like, oh, you were in church you were at the funeral and this boy saw you. See, I told you, graveyards are where all the hookups are happening. But yeah, so we get
but then
the
she
idea
was like, but anybody who would who would be staring at me while I was at a funeral is a piece of shit, and I won't have it. And she was like, I have discerning tastes. You should try it, sister. That was a sick burn.
Yeah.
That was a sick burn.
Yes, it was. But Penny was like, fuck you. You know why you have this nice house to come live in now that our dad's dead and his house probably got repossessed? Because I went ahead and married who I was supposed to marry, so shut it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I feel like they're very much on even footing. So after we have two women kind of sparring, we get to check out Mai Ling in her Mongol Queen cosplay.
So at this point, I wrote, what is going on with the costumes? Like,
so, yes.
Because she looks like Mulan, like real life Mulan, except if real life Mulan had an armorer who was also a Native American and had incorporated some Native American design choices into her chest frontispiece. Like,
right. Yeah, but those fur epaulets on her shoulder, like that turns up over and over. And weirdly enough, that is something that turns up in European soldier duds as well.
Oh, really? It looks badass.
Yeah. So the whole armor thing, but yeah, like the medallions on those skirts, I was like, we're just going Mongol Queen cosplay. I don't know what the hell's going on, but
Mongol Queen cosplay in America with like a really good Native American friend or something. It was like, I got some ideas for that leather work on the front.
But yeah, she's also wearing something where she could just like whip something out and kick your ass.
Oh yeah, she's definitely ready to fuck shit up. And there are lemons. Oranges
and lemons. Yeah, and the whole thing, we just got them in from Los Angeles. I'm not sure if that would have happened. Well, no, they might have been growing citrus in Los Angeles at that point. Yeah, no, that actually makes sense. They would have been growing citrus in the Spanish missions down there.
Yeah, one might think it would be in Orange County.
But
the birthplace of evangelical religious psychosis in America.
Good to know. Yay. But yeah, that was the most Godfather scene that Mai Ling pulls off there, where she's like, buy up the whole store. Take your wife to the hospital. All that was missing was her pulling him to the side. Someday I might ask a favor of you.
Yes, there was so the shopkeeper has this, he's old and he's got this old crinkled up wife who's coughing because she's so sick, and Mai Ling, the evil Klingon warrior lady, looks at him and says, you need to take your wife to the doctor. And he says, well, she won't go because she says we need to both be here to run this store. And that's when she says, I'm buying the whole fucking shop. Go take your wife to the doctor. And hands him a big old pile of money.
All we needed was the someday I might ask a favor of you. Like, that's all that was missing. Yep. But I think he knew that was implied, because as she's coming into the market area, everybody like lines up and bows to her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everybody knows who she is. And also, how many women could be cosplaying as Mongol warrior ladies at that time? I mean, she has to stand out, even in this place.
Yeah, and so we pull back and we see Young Jun and Assam, and Young Jun is just like, he's building up a head of steam. He's like mean mugging at Mai Ling.
Staring at him across the street.
Spits. Yeah, yeah. And Young Jun's like, just don't. He's like, no, I want to be mad. I want to be mad now.
Yeah. Assam the whole time is like, dude, would you just calm the fuck down? Jesus. And because he's about to start a scrap right there in the street. And so when they pass, and then you see Lee Yong just give him that little smirk, like, and he's totally in Assam's head. And just completely owns Assam inside. And it's eating Assam up.
Yes. And so so we move out and we find out where Sam went. Sam went to his mayoral office to get some peace and quiet. But of course he doesn't get that because who does he have to hang out with? Buckley.
The world's biggest snake. That man, it just gets slimier and nastier with every moment he's on screen. It's amazing.
Oh, and he's just like, oh, what is this knife hanging out of your ribs? Let me just flick that a few times. Flick, flick, flick.
That guy is all about picking at wounds. All he does is needle the... but the mayor keeps clapping back at him in this episode. He's not taking any Buckley shit anymore, it seems like.
Well, I feel like he's trying to, but, you know, he's used to being a bully to people who'll take it lying down, and Buckley's like, nope, pink.
Yeah.
Nope.
You
pink.
Can't even control the women in your house, pussy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when he took hold of the knife and just went, twist.
Yeah, yep.
Because he was saying, it's like, well, just raise the amount of money I can pay so she doesn't have to hire the coolies. And he's like,
yeah.
Yeah, right.
And the bizarre thing is that, again, and he points it out, that Buckley has forced them to hire Chinese labor. And now he's penalizing them for hiring Chinese labor. And this idiot of a chubby walrus man just cannot understand that he is being led around by the nose.
No!
It's nauseating to watch.
No! He just doesn't get it. And then Father Jun is in his office. And he's doing his paperwork. And Young Jun is standing behind him. And he's now really, like, worked up that head of steam he was working on out in the market. And
oh yes, this is a fun scene.
And he's just like, we're getting our clocks cleaned by the long Z. You gotta stand up for yourself. Why are you playing the same old game, old man?
Meanwhile, this dumb shit is the one who gave away the farm. Like, they had to give away the farm so that he could get out of, like, it's his fault that they had to give up the real estate that he's whining about now. And he's claiming that it's his dad's fault and his dad needs to do something about it. And his dad says, what did the five fingers say to the face? Slap! And just slaps the shit out of that boy.
I mean, he starts with, like, be cool, grasshopper. And Young Jun is like, no, I'm mad now.
Yeah, mad now.
And he totally gets the five fingers smacked down. Know your place.
And that's when Father Jun goes to Assam, and he's. It looks like there's going to be problems, but Assam finally stops hitting on the wooden dummy and turns around and looks at Father Jun, and that's when Father Jun says what we knew he was going to say.
Yes.
He says, "Please watch my son and keep him from doing any other dumb shit, please."
Yes.
Please.
But another entrance into the Fantasyland Chronicles, we get to see the Haifeng and their fantasy ger / yurt that they have created in a building.
Yeah, that looked like something out of Conan. They seriously looked like they were like,
yeah,
yo, let this set piece from Conan. This is a good one. Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, it was all hides and leather and tattooed women.
You know what it looked like? Charlie's Angels 2, where they're in Russia and there's like a Mongol bar in Russia that the girls go into and beat the shit out of everybody. It looked like that Mongol bar in the Charlie's Angels 2.
Yeah, I mean, but just sort of like you have the one big room and all of these things are happening in it. I'm like, yeah, this is straight out of the ger yurt kind of like building sensibility. And you're like, okay, this is where the Haifong hang out, and it totally makes sense. And boy, is Bill O'Hara uncomfortable. And he's like, okay, I'm done, right? You can let go of me now? And they just laugh and laugh.
He's so that's where the Haifong's leader. He knows O'Hara better than O'Hara knows himself. And he knows that he's going to be able to keep O'Hara coming back with this money. And so he just says, like, no, you're not. What did he say? He's like, you're Buddha in your mind, but I know your heart.
Yeah,
like
you pray to Buddha with your mouth, but your heart?
Yeah. And then he just hands him some money and says, you work for me. And looks disgusted with himself and then takes the money. And we're just like, God damn you, Bill.
Yeah. And then we get the best brother-sister fight yet. Because Mai Ling's speaking of praying to Buddha with your mouth, she's in there going like, I just need to chill a little bit. I need to recenter. Clearly I'm like a little ungrounded. So I just gotta calm down. I gotta spend some time. And then in walks Assam. It's like, hey sis. Hey, want to fight?
Yeah. You tried to kill me, bitch. Guess what?
Yeah.
I'm your worst fucking nightmare.
And I mean, they looked so much like siblings. I mean, they had such squabble sibling energy. It was just great.
Yeah. And Mai Ling's like persistent look of irritation. It is that sister look, like, God damn it, you will not stop touching me, Mom. He won't stop touching me. Like, it's the same look carried forward through life.
They did that so well.
Yeah, they really acted the shit out of that.
And just that line where Asam's like, yeah, you always had to be right. You just said everybody was wrong. And she's like, not everyone, just you.
The ultimate sister line. Just the ultimate sister line.
And then so she strides out, and as Asam's getting ready to storm off, Leong once again just gives that cocky little nod like, hey, buddy, you doing?
Yeah.
Sup?
Hey, I'm still in your head. Remember when I beat the shit out of you?
Yeah.
But he says it all with his eyes. I'm thinking about how I beat the shit out of you, and I'm kind of laughing in my head right now. I don't know if it's showing on my face. That's what's going on in his eyes.
Then O'Hara shows up back at home, and he's got a package of steak, and Mrs. O'Hara is like, seriously, are you like, where are you getting the money, man? And he's like, no, steak for my family. I just want the best for them, because I'm not gambling, it's just good old-fashioned graft. To which Mrs. O'Hara goes, oh, okay, cool, that's fine.
Yeah, but what, just this man, it's like he's trying so hard to do the right thing on 80% of the stuff. And then the other 20%, he's just dumb and bad for no reason. He's so frustrating. Just stop lying, you dickhead. But he just keeps going.
Yeah. But you could also kind of see why, like, they got married. They do seem to have, like, when they're not completely pissed off at each other, they do have this rhythm with each other. Like, it might be just old habit, but they can connect on the same wavelength.
Yeah, and when he comes home with steak, she's smiling because her kids are getting fed, and, so she doesn't really care where it came from so long as he didn't lose money at the table. And that's what he clearly didn't do. Right,
and so, like, O'Hara's doing his job being a provider, and then we get to see Leary doing his job as a provider for his gang. It's like, all right, boyos, good to see you eating well.
It's not so much a gang, but this is where you see organized labor and organized crime going hand in hand, because you have to collect dues.
Yeah.
And he shows up and he's like, hey guys, look like that lumber job's treating you guys nice, because they're all eating this delicious looking stew, and the white bread wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, some really nice bakery bread, and those big old glasses of beer.
Yes. And so would their bread have looked that good?
If they were getting like the nice bread from a bakery, yeah. Because remember the whole like San Francisco sourdough? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it dates back that far.
Oh, yeah. No, the miners were in fact called sourdoughs.
Oh, I'll be damned. So the mother for that sourdough bread goes back to the middle of the 19th century?
Somewhere in there, yeah. Well, it's just, I mean, you just sort of do your starter. Like, anybody can go start a sourdough anywhere, anytime.
But don't they keep a piece of it in a safe or something, and then they keep using it?
Well, yeah, you can do that, but you don't have to.
But I think that, like, as a San Francisco sourdough, like, it's a tradition that has been carried forward for, like, using the exact same mother for the bread over time. It's like, right, pretty much unchanged.
It has more to do with the microbes in the air. So sort of like that marine environment and the flora and fauna that live there. There's like just going to be those microbes there. And so, yes, I'm sure that somebody has preserved it from that far back. But you can also just go start one today. It's going to be different because now there's like different stuff there. But yeah, you know, if they had like gotten their weekly pay, they would have splashed out for the good bread and like the stew with the extra meat in it. But yeah, the bread, the potatoes, the big glasses of beer, and those beer glasses, I'm a little bit like, I think those felt kind of exaggerated. But again, now that we're sort of entering this heightened reality stage.
I don't remember the beer glasses. What would they have been drinking out? What would they have been drinking? I don't remember what glasses they had, but what would they have been drinking out of? Pint
big
glasses?
Honking like glass beer steins, and so they might, that handle thing just feels sort of excessive and not necessarily what would have had. They would have had more like sort of a pint glassy kind of thing. But again, we're in heightened reality. You know what's going on there. It's picturesque as hell. The light shines through them beautifully. So I'm not complaining. I'm just going along for the ride.
All right, cool. So that basically just looks like Oktoberfest in a real life old school bar. All right, gotcha.
But glass was around. Glass was getting cheaper. Like technologically, it's not too far off. And they look cool. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But yeah, so he stares them down. He's like, look, you guys are lucky right now, but pay up because you might not be so lucky next week.
Yeah, and he makes a really good point that was like you got to pay your fucking dues because there are people who are not working right now. We have to feed those people.
Right.
And you might be in that position tomorrow. So, and you got to pay your dues. So please pay your dues. And the guys don't want to pay the dues. And then he slams his hat down on the table and he's like, please pay your dues. With the obvious hint of, I don't want to have to start hurting you people. So just please,
I know you want to go back to work next week.
Which he promptly takes to go buy a fucking bomb. What the fuck, Larry?
Yes.
What is happening? All of a sudden he's an IRA man?
I was just like, dynamite. Why are you getting dynamite? What's going on here?
Yeah, he goes right from being the perfect labor organizer who's like, we got to make sure everybody's taken care of. We got to make sure everybody's fed.
Yeah, no pulling up the ladder after you.
To a psychopath. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Come on.
And it's from one psychopath to the next group of psychopaths.
Oh, yes. The 19th century Proud Boys in the craziest...
Jesus. Hitler Youth haircuts and the whole thing.
Oh, my God. They seriously look like Proud Boys. But in, like, James and the Technicolor Dreamcoat style jackets that I wanted every fucking jacket in this entire array of outfits. They were all as Natalie dressed as human beings could be.
And I did notice that some of the chains they were using were like very modern looking. I'm like, okay, we are just entering heightened reality here. I mean, they looked cool and badass, but I was like, yep, we've left that behind.
They did. And so that's where I was like, this couldn't be real.
No.
Like, there's no way. Like, they didn't have that. They couldn't have had those fabrics.
Right.
Because those fabrics were just too fucking dope.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they had them in the Chinese emperor's wardrobe, but it wasn't happening in some like 19th century Proud Boy dickhead on a dock trying to hang a poor Chinese man.
Yeah.
Who's clearly half dead.
Yeah, it's always the little people who, get it in the nuts.
Oh, and they trot out every one of the right's favorite aphorisms about immigrants. Your disease.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know the language. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. My penis is very small. No woman will talk to me. All the hits. They were all there. And he's going to hang this Chinese man because he can't get laid.
And the thing is, like, again, are they stealing from modern stuff? I'm like, no. This was, like, word for word what people were saying at that time. Like, 100%.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's word for word what people are saying right now about the people coming across the Mexican border. They say they carry disease and they do this and they do that. It's like, motherfucker, people from Florida carry disease. Like, the people from Mexico at least have the excuse of they didn't have a fucking hospital within 100,000 miles of where they live. Like, Florida just sucks.
Our current racists, like, they can't even be original. See, you're right. Education would have helped.
Yeah, at least they could have come up with some better reasons to be racist.
But anyway, this poor guy is about to get hanged.
Jesus. Yeah, but anyway, so that Technicolor Dreamcoat was so fucking... Did you notice that jacket? It was like... had a million different stripes going long ways down the sleeves. I want that jacket.
Yeah.
It was like the ultimate pinstripe jacket where every color's different.
Yeah.
Oh,
but anyway, so that poor Chinese guy is in danger of getting hanged, and then superhero knife sounds out of the dark.
Yeah, then all of a sudden, Lai and Ah Toy turn into Jason and like Freddy Krueger. Lai cuts the man's throat like out of nowhere.
Oh my
gorgeous arterial spray, and then she has her evil little smile like, ha ha, hee hee hee, I'm a tiny little impish woman who will murder you.
I've been waiting to do that.
Toy's in there like Mike Myers hacking off hands, arterial blood spray everywhere, and then it all in the middle of it, Assam just using kung fu to fuck everyone up, breaking every limb he can grab a hold of.
Oh, and using their knives. I'm like, oh, you have a knife. Let me have that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to break your left arm and then stab you in the chest with a knife you were holding in your right hand.
That one guy, he's like, I'm going to get my gun. I'm like, don't you guys know you don't come to a kung fu fight with a gun? Because these people will just mess you up more.
Well, and as we mentioned, guns were pretty hard to come by in San Francisco at the time. So
right,
yeah. Even then, they would be like, "Oh, well, do you really want to do that to yourself?" Because they'd probably hang him just for having the gun anyway.
Yeah, but at that point, those guys are working on the. What are you going to do about it? Huh? I'm a nice nativist white guy. I can do what I want.
Oh, not anymore. Not anymore. Because Lai is there in a fucking sleeveless Doom hood, which was about the least historically accurate thing I've ever seen. But I love Doom hoods, even though they're a huge pain in the ass to wear. And like she looked like a total badass. And Toy had a totally different look. She almost looked like masculine. But that was where she was going with it. She looked like a fucking ninja who was there to murder.
Yeah, she's like, this is my practical killing look.
Yeah.
I can't have like big hair for that. That's not practical. Oh, and the way they stride out of there after they finish taking down Mr. One Hand, it's just like, that is the Angels of Death Squad or something.
Oh, they looked so badass. It's so much fun. And then it segs right into, so it goes right from like ninja assassins into Sherlock Holmes, because we've got opium addict Lee in full Sherlock Holmes mode, but like before Sherlock Holmes discovered the wonders of cocaine to get rid of his opium addiction, so he's just fucked up on laudanum, just in there trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and you can sort of see, like, getting hit in the head, like, maybe it's the laudanum, but, like, Lee has lost a lot of his polish and charm and politeness. Like, he's kind of a different dude. But I'm just thinking about how he was in season 1. He was all just, like, very, polite and nice and organized and polished and put together, and he looks rough now. And then he's telling Flanagan to just like, get bent, man.
Yeah, go fuck yourself, Flanagan.
Flanagan, who has his Sherlock Holmes pipe too.
Yeah. But yeah, he looks pale and gaunt, and he looks a mess.
Yeah.
So this was around the same time as that one railroadman got the spike through his frontal lobe, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a similar time period. And so like the whole thing.
So that's kind of where you were going with it? You're wondering if it was kind of the similar thing?
Well, and also because they keep talking about his head wound and, we don't know a lot about head wounds. And so I think they're kind of maybe pushing the idea that his personality has really changed, because he's like, yeah, I hated Lee, but at least he used to be polite. He doesn't even have that going for him anymore.
It's hard to be polite when you have a fucking migraine, though, or a cluster headache or whatever. So I imagine that would, and if he has a constant migraine, that just wears you down over time. You're just exhausted, and that has to be.
Yeah. So we also get the thing where Assam and Young Jun are starting to be like, okay, so the Long Z are getting different opium. And it's not Chinese. Now, they're saying a local source. So I'm wondering, like, in this heightened reality, are we implying there is American opium growers, or are they just getting Indian opium? So it's not going through all the middlemen that the Chinese opium's going through, or Afghani opium.
I wondered the exact same thing, because I was like, well, how would it be less expensive to get it from Afghanistan than it would be to get from China? So you were having the same thought.
Yeah. But if it's all black market stuff and you're not having to bribe as many Chinese officials, I can see how it would be cheaper. But I'm like, or are we just shifting because we have the shoe selection we do? Are we just making up that there is an American opium source?
That I will have to research that for the next episode, because I'm curious now, and you've just made me more curious.
Yeah. I mean, because historically there wasn't an opium source,
I was
an
thinking
American
maybe
opium
there
source.
might have been in South America, because the tropical climate. Maybe they were growing opium, or trying to, in Central America.
That's possible.
That's
I
what
guess,
I'm going to look for.
But sure, okay, but why not? Sugar, coffee, whatever.
Yeah, Mai Ling she's a Klingon warrior princess, and so
But I just have to bring up Assam. Trots out one of my favorite concepts that my cousin and I have renamed the better to ask forgiveness than permission. We've just smooshed that together. We now call it formission. We're just going to formission this.
Formission. I was going to say, that is the worst advice a person could possibly give another person. Speaking from personal experience, it's better to just do it right the first time than it is to fuck it up in some way and have to redo it somehow afterwards, at least in my personal experience.
Especially when you're dealing with, like, somebody has specifically told you not to do something. Because Young June, that was his whole thing. He's like, why are we going to the 6 companies? And they're like, hey, let's just not go to the 6 companies, and yeah, we'll figure it out later. It's like, no. But
it's like, haven't you seen Goodfellas? That's exactly how you end up getting shot in the back of the head. Like 2 to the back of the head, 22. That is what happens when you do that exact thing. It's bang, bang. As if somebody says from behind you, you didn't know was in your back seat, hey, you. And then that's it.
And next thing you know, somebody's having to line the trunk of their car with garbage bags and go dig a hole.
Exactly. Joe Pesci's got to go get a kitchen knife from his from his ma. 2 a.m. I killed a deer, Ma. I killed a deer. I gotta dress this deer in the middle of the night in a shark skin suit. We're gonna go bury this deer. We're gonna give it a proper burial, Ma. It's 3 a.m. Make some meatballs. That's exactly how these idiots are acting. Except they don't realize that they're going to be Samuel L. Jackson getting shot in the back of the head in their underwear, and not being the people who make it to the end of the film.
Oh my God. So after this whole freaking mess, we get to see that the Irish are out for the Chinese, because there's like the recruiter who goes and picks up the Chinese workers, and the Irish guys are standing outside the steel factory and being like, waving their bats in the air, going, And
I'm thinking to myself, why don't these Chinese guys just get out and get ready to fight? But instead they sat in the truck and got their asses kicked. And so then we get inside and we find Penny is getting just berated by this man about how she needs to sell her company to him for her own good.
Hey little lady, I'm just here. I'm thinking of you,
Daddy Warbucks,
as your husband's friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And inside that guy is like, God damn woman owning shit. I gotta stop this. Nip this in the bud right now.
But he did have a very good point when they brought in the coolie who had been beaten down, and he's like, well, I'm sure you had the foresight to hire a very good security team. And she's like, oh, that was dumb.
And so at this point, I'm almost wondering if he's working with Leary. I'm like, because lots of wheels are turning off screen, and I don't know what they are at this point. And I'm like, was that also kind of a threat, too?
It might have been. I don't know. I feel like we give these people far too much credit in real life. But this is a TV show. But in real life, they were just drunken assholes. There were no machinations. They were like, give me some cocaine and I'll figure something out. Oh, that was too much cocaine. Give me more laudanum.
But yeah, so after that whole thing, seeing all these people with body parts cut off, Chow gets a visit from O'Hara and Lee, and they're like, look, dude, fess up. What's going on? God damn it. We're sick of your shit.
Exactly. I have to interrupt you for 1 second because I just had a thought.
Sure.
Have you ever noticed how similar the 1880s are to the 1980s?
Mm-hmm. Greed is good.
So many similar attitudes, but especially like the rich people being like, do more cocaine! Give me some opium so I can fix it. I did too much cocaine. Give me some goddamn laudanum. It's the same thing, but they did Quaaludes. Like it was Wolf of Wall Street, but it's just like in the 1880s. And it's so weird. Like,
no, it is funny. I mean, the whole thing, like history rhymes. It's not even just about the wars. It's about the way people are acting.
Yeah. Even down to their cocaine use. It's bizarre.
Yeah. So Chow gets cleaned out and he's like, well,
yes.
Guess I should go get drunk now.
Well, I mean, the way he got cleaned out was really how police have to work, which is, look, we're friends. I would like you to give me some information so that, because I'm getting pressured from my boss. And then they say, you can go fuck yourself.
Yep.
And they're like, all right, we're going to take all your shit. We'll see what we find here.
So Chow goes to Atoy's place because, well, he didn't have anything else to do today. And Assam tries to bring him in on the machinations. And Chow's like, look, I hit a sandbar today in my little floaty boat. What? I'm going to get between you and Father June and the Hopway? Hell no.
And the six, whatever they are, the Six Nations.
Six companies, yeah.
Six companies, yeah. I don't know what that is, but it sounds scary. I don't, like, you don't want six companies after you, whatever six companies they are.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're like the opium suppliers, like the opium cartel, basically, was like my guess.
The predecessor to the triads or something.
Yeah, something like that. Chow just has... so Chow and Atoy sit down, and they're both kind of cranky. But Chow is, like, extra cranky, super cranky. And he's like, you're having fun, but you just got to cut that shit out, because...
Well, yeah, and she didn't know that he knew, and she's like, I want to know how you know all this shit. And he's like, it's my job to know all this shit.
Yeah. And he's like, you just got to lay low, you got to cut this shit out. And he has the best line...
Yeah, your extracurriculars need to stop. You guys need to stop with your extracurriculars.
Yeah, don't overestimate how much I'll suffer to keep your secret. That was, great line. Great line.
And great delivery. Every delivery that he makes is, both him and Father June, I've noticed on their Instagram, like, that is their personality. So, like, they have that, like, poise and calm and strength all at the same time. I love those guys. They're amazing.
And then Atoy hints that Wong Chow has another secret. I'm like, oh, what? So I'm excited to see what that's going to be. But yeah, then we get to go to like what you're talking about, the Ziegfeld Follies, the vaudeville, the circus act, all of the transgressive playing about. I mean... We
have the trapeze artist scissoring on top of a trapeze.
Yes. Yeah, and there was... the one woman who had like the big tall curly hair, and I was like, was that implying that person was trans as they walked in?
That woman looked, because you only saw her from behind, but like you kind of saw the face looked like very masculine, so I was wondering the same thing.
Okay, so we were seeing the same thing.
Yes, yeah. I was like, that's a man. Yeah, that's trans. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just sort of like hinting at all, like, this is where you go to do all the things you can't do in the daylight.
Yes, exactly. And I love that I finally got to see a little bit of the stuff that I'm constantly reading about with the vaudevillian trapeze artist, because it's kind of hard to imagine what the hell a trapeze show would look like in your head when you're like... So there's 300 screaming drunk men who are probably coked up on top of it, armed, who are watching a woman flip about on a trapeze. How is that working? And so that made more sense. They're doing sexually suggestive things that didn't actually show any, but they're wearing, what were the petticoats, or what was that?
So yeah, they had like peplums and a little bit of petticoat and bustles and leggings. And so like, yeah, there was sort of the implication of being unclothed, but they weren't like nude in any way.
Yes.
Think Madonna in the 80s, where she's just sort of wearing her underwear, her like very, very fancy underwear as outerwear. That's basically what they're doing.
That was very Madonna in the 80s / Moulin Rouge. Like,
yes, 100%. Yeah. And that's the era, and you're like, oh, were they still... No.
That is the era of Moulin Rouge.
This is what they were actually doing. In the time and place, all of the stuff would have been longer and bigger and blousier. these costume designers have Lycra to work with, so it's a lot more form-fitting.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I still just keep coming back to drawstring underwear.
Yeah.
What the fuck? No. I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to live in that world. And it was wool. Drawstring wool underwear.
Or linen, so, nice and itchy.
There you go. But not with they still hadn't designed the crotch area correctly yet, right?
Nope.
They hadn't quite worked that out. So what was, just so people know what kind of seams were digging into their taints. Sweaty taints.
Okay, if you were rich, you actually had a French seam, so that was actually a nice flat seam that laid flat. So, but
where would that seam have been? In between your legs on your taint?
Yeah.
Is it going horizontally across from leg to leg, or is it going like your crack?
It's going to your crack. Yep.
Okay.
But
all right.
But if not,
so
you would just have
sawing at your ass crack on every step.
No, because all of their pants and underwear and everything's baggy. Everything's really, really baggy.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But that's why people who rode horses were still all about the loincloth life, because no seams.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh, so the leotard was invented around that time,
right?
And it was made of wool.
Yep.
But how did they get it to be form-fitting? Because is wool typically form-fitting?
You can sort of give a little stretch into it with the way that it's knit. Like you think about old school Argyle socks, and that's like early elastic. That diamond pattern is actually about creating this stretch that snaps back.
Ah, shit. I didn't even know that Argyle socks didn't have elastic in them, but now that's the perfect... All right. So when they were like these lifters or trapeze artists, they were basically wearing pants that were made of Argyle socks. That would have been pretty comfortable,
basically, yeah. And they were starting to play around with sort of different fibers, and so probably a really nice leotard might be made of something like merino wool, which again retains more spring in the knit.
Okay. Cool.
But still, leotards then were much baggier than leotards are now, because no Lycra. But the club that they're in, they're showing, like we talked about earlier, about how they used to take beached ships and they'd pull them up onto the shore and like build buildings out of them. This was sort of taking that again to that heightened reality extreme. They actually are implying that it's just like a boat. I'm like, it's not, but they're implying it, and it looks really fucking cool.
It did, and it was really, they floated up for that top-down scene that I was saying that really reminded me of The Crow, the first Crow with Brandon Lee, which was so good. And it must have been an homage to it, because it's Brandon Lee.
Yeah,
but they had these beautiful and it had the same colors of just panning over this kind of the city and then going to the sky with because it's always dark in the Crow movies, and then it goes down from the top into this fight. And the fight scene was way better than the one at the beginning. Instead of it being that cliche, this time it was really like, that's where I realized, oh shit, this is training montages. They're spacing out his training montages, and he's training to fight Li Yong again. So he's going up against all the baddest motherfuckers he can find to get ready.
Right. And so he has that conversation. That's where we learn her pirate lady's name is Vega, or at least that's where I finally picked it up. And then they sort of have another cliche conversation. He's like, yeah, I really got fucked up once, so this is like I'm trying to dig my way out of that hole kind of thing.
That conversation is actually really important. So she says to him, you fucked that guy up, or something like that. And he says, no, it took too long. And she goes, you did it in under 3 minutes. And he goes, yeah, it should have been over much faster. That is a reference to a fight between Bruce Lee and this guy, Wong Jack Man. This was kind of like where it dawned upon him that like traditional martial arts were not the way, because he used Wing Chun against this this guy who was like I don't know if he was a Shaolin monk or what, but he was a traditional Chinese master who didn't want Bruce Lee teaching Kung Fu to white people. And he challenged Bruce Lee. They had this fight, and Bruce Lee said that he was exhausted after the fight. He hit this guy a couple of times. The guy started running, and then he broke his hands, or really fucked up his hands, hitting him in the back of the head and the top of the head. And he was also
that head top hit, I was like, why is he doing that? That's why he's doing that. Okay.
There you go. Exactly. So So he said that like that was just too long. I need to change up what I'm going to do, what I'm doing. I need to get more conditioned. I need to start lifting weights, and I need to start picking up other styles. And so that is super.
Okay.
And I never noticed that before when I watched. And I've seen this episode at least 3 times, and I never noticed it before.
Okay, and then from there, it was like all of these like set pieces setting up what's coming next. You have the full-on Jack the Ripper bullshit closed carriage picking up random whores in fantasy costumes on the street side. And you're like, oh, it's Buckley. I bet we're never going to see that prostitute again, at least not in all in one piece.
Yeah, probably
at least that's
not.
how I felt about that.
He's such an evil piece of shit. He has to be some kind of serial killer in this thing.
Oh, and then we get the romance painting, gauzy curtain, sort of romantic setup, like full-on graphic novel painting with Mai Ling and Li Yong.
Yeah.
And Mai Ling is going, wow, I think we've both grown up into new people. Like, got it in one, girl.
I was going to say, so she says, I think we both grown up. And I was really mad that my brother didn't realize that I'm not the little girl that he knew when he came here. And then she thought for a second, and she was like, but he is also not who I thought he was. So we better be pretty fucking careful because, oh shit. That was a really fun, it dawned on her like,
right.
Oh, my brother's going to kill me. Because he said in that one scene that he's going to be the one who's going to end up leading the Hop Way. Because Young Jun's obviously a fucking idiot. And Father Jun is going to die soon. So, like, and he was like, yep, I'll be running shit. And his sister was like, oh, what? Somehow that never dawned on this evil dragon lady.
And also, I really super appreciated the teen vogueness of all of that. Is you've got like the pretty sort of romantic setting, and yet she's thinking deep strategic thoughts in that moment. It's like, women are gonna do both these things, guys, so get it together.
And I've always said that if you ever see a woman laying in bed at night and she's awake, you probably ought to think about what you did wrong and fix it fast. Fast, because she's not thinking about how to keep you alive. That is not what she's thinking about.
And then we get to end the whole episode on yet another like set piece, setting shit up with like the kablamo. That's where the dynamite went.
Yes. Leary goes full IRA. And I just did not see that. Even though I have seen this episode, I put it out of my head because I want to like this dude so much that I forgot.
And so was he blowing up the factory or was it a boarding house? Like I couldn't pin
I think he blew
what
up
he
a
was
factory,
blowing up.
But we're going to find out in the next episode, I imagine.
Okay. All right. But the way they also had him light his cigar just so it was like that spark in the dark, I was just like, they were having so much fun with shot composition in those last 3 scenes. I was just like, damn.
He did everything but twist his mustache and go, yeah, excellent, Smedley, or whatever that Natasha and Boris thing was. Like, he was an evil mustache-twisting man from the 19th century.
Oh, yeah.
He was going to tie a damsel to a train track.
Yeah, if you're smoking a cigar while you're watching a building burn, yeah, you are the bad guy.
Definitely.
Oh my!
Also, if you're slowly walking away from a building that's on fire, probably the bad guy as well.
Yeah. Well, that was a hell of an episode. I am ready for season 2 with skates on. Oh my god.
Oh yes, and I have to admit, I did. I watched forward. I finally dipped my toe into season 3. Oh my god, it's so good. But this show is amazing. Like. Every iteration of it is amazing. I cannot get enough of this show.
It's incredible. Well, so we will have to be back next week to catch up with everybody's dastardly deeds and dangerous decisions and all of that.
Cue the AC/DC. Dirty deeds, not dirt cheap.
Absolutely.
That was my Angus Young impression, for better or worse.
But yeah, just the new characters that they've introduced and the new aspects of the characters they've introduced, I was just like, you know what? They have stopped trying to be quite so tied to reality. And so I'm along for the ride. Let's go.
Yes. And I'm going to say it on here so that I can get people in the comments to co-sign this. But what I would like to do, because this is perfect for a perfect seg, is I want to watch League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and tell people what it actually would have looked like. The janky, fucked up mess of like Nemo's submarine, etc. What that nightmarescape would have looked like, and what Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, with his cocaine and all that, I think it would be so much fun to do.
Oh yeah, no, that definitely has to be in our next movie, or we can do that as like a watch party and a bonus discussion. Because we got to get caught up. Oh my God, we got to get caught up.
Speaking of getting caught up, where can they find you, and what? Tell us something cool that you just researched for your podcast that we need to know that you're super excited about.
Well, I finally get to go west. So my podcast, The History of American Food, it's been all about colonial and before we cross the Appalachian Mountains kind of food. But now we're going west, and just that's going to change everything. Strangely enough, we are going to start having less variety in our diet. I was shocked.
Is that because of commercial farming and people stopped foraging?
A lot of it. Like they were doing don't go out and forage like the savages, you idiots. Stay in the farmyard.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, the commercial farming, the railroads, that's all going to start limiting what we do.
Interesting. All right. You'd think that it would expand it because, we're creating this global network, but I guess we had to contract before we expanded.
Right. And canning also comes into play. It's wild.
What year did canning come into play?
It's just that the canning really gets going right before the Civil War, because that's the first war in America that's supplied with actual canned food.
Okay.
Yeah. But it really gets going after that, because the industrialization of America kicks into super mega high speed gangbusters turbocharged industrialization after the Civil War.
All right. Well, I'm excited to hear about that because I don't know I don't even know how to imagine tinned beef. So, and I just think of beef in a can as oh my God, they're eating dog food. So, and they probably were, especially with hash. But is it?
Some of it, if you were rich, you could get some good stuff, but then you could get the formaldehyde preserved stuff and die on the Spanish front.
Ooh, yummy! Yummy formaldehyde. So we can catch you on the History of American Food podcast. Anywhere else?
You can catch both of us at the Intelligent Speech Conference coming up on November 4th. And guess what? We have a discount code. It's food. So come catch you raving about survival contingencies in the 19th century. Along with me, I talk about scary butter substitutes. But yeah, intelligentspeechonline.com, link in the show notes. And discount code for tickets. It's food.
All right, awesome. And I am at Plague of Strength on the Instagram. I'm plagueofstrength.com. If you want to go read some of my long form stuff, and I can go 10 pages on the history of cannabis and then follow it up with 10 pages about a strongman that you need to know about but never heard of. I have been writing for 10, 15 years now, and I have 3 million plus published words and another 2 million in drafts on that website. So I have written about everything you could possibly want to know about. And I also have books that are available on that website on everything from history to training and everything in between. So go there and buy things.
And then also, if you just want to talk just about this podcast, we have an Instagram and a Threads account, PCG Podcast. And you can leave suggestions, comments, quibbles, fashion critiques. We're up for it.
Yes, and soon I will start posting specific to that site. I mean, I'm going to keep my my Plague of Strength Instagram going, but I'm also going to be posting
me too.
PCG podcast, specific stuff. So getting more kung fu type stuff, fashion, food, everything 19th century that we love.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
Next week.
All right. We're on Instagram at pcgpodcasters. PCG And you can always reach out to us by email at pcgpodcasters@gmail.com. And you can find more dope beats like this one from royalraven.com.
Hey everyone, my name's Sebastian Major, and I am the host of the Our Fake History podcast.
I'm Rebecca Larson with the Tudors Dynasty podcast.
This is Greta Harden. I'm the host of The History of American Food.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Jacobs. I'm the host of Wittenberg to Westphalia, The Wars of the Reformation.
Hello.
I'm Anton.
And I'm Rick. We're the Curiosity of a Child podcast.
I'm David Montgomery, host of the Siècle.
Hi, I'm Bree from Pontifex.
My name is Roberto Toro, and I'm the host of Tsar Power and the History of Sakartvelo, Georgia.
Hello, and welcome to Totalis Rankium. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Rob, and this is letting you know that we will be speaking at Intelligent Speech.
I am looking forward to speaking at Intelligent Speech 2023.
And I will be speaking at Intelligent Speech Online this year.
Mark your calendars for this November 4th. Intelligent Speech, the online conference for history fans by history podcasters.
It's a 3-ring circus of fascinating content with around 24 hours of live presentations and roundtables happening in 4 digital rooms.
This year is all about contingencies.
Times when history meets the unexpected.
The topic of my keynote address is No Contingencies, Stories of Historical Figures Who Did Not Have a Backup Plan.
All about the Tudors and their contingency plans. Because, let's be real, they had a lot of them.
So what are we going to be doing?
We're going to be telling the story of what happens when you're starving in a city under siege for months, surrounded by food that you can't eat as it's your life's work, food that is more important than you are.
So go to intelligentspeechonline.com to get your tickets.
We'll see everybody on November 4th.